So very quickly, this is a map of the RA Center. The RA Center really represents one of those gems in the city of Ottawa. The facility is found near the intersection of Bronson and Riverside Drive, like basically kitty corner to Carleton University along the Rideau River. It is an immense facility offering a range of different infrastructure and facilities to support sporting and recreational activities as well as hobbies. So just what I love about this slide is it really does give a broad, in one image, describes the broad range of services that are offered from softball to soccer to a whole range of other things. Shifting gears, what are the reason why I like this slide to supplement that map, that photographic image, is the range of additional clubs and hobby-based groups that the RA Center offers. You know, and so whether it's a photo club or judo or pickleball or a fitness center, the other thing I like to draw people's attention to is ideally, if things work out from a public health standpoint, it didn't happen last year largely, but they do offer a wide range of programming for children and youth in the summer and sports and other related activities. Next slide, please. So turning to if the RA is a gem, the Canoe Camping Club is something even more special. An institution that was initially founded in the Ottawa area in 1952, bringing together people who enjoyed the outdoors and enjoyed specifically canoeing and camping. It was initially part of the YMYWCA, but in 2012 we migrated to the RA Center. Throughout that whole time frame, and we have members of the club today whose parents were actually founding members, so they themselves grew up in the club. And one of the things that gives me a great deal of, it brings a smile to my face, is the generations that I see in the club of people bringing their children who subsequently become teenagers and move forward. Anyways, the club is organized by volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Peter, our whitewater coordinator, is a volunteer, and Mark, who is basically the man in the background making all of this work. His nickname is Houston because he really does have an amazing setup in his basement to support this. Yet we're all volunteers. Next slide, please. If you could back up one, dude. Very briefly, that previous slide before we got to this really did, the intent there with that slide was to give you just a general overview. Excellent, thank you, Mark, of the types of activities and training that the club offers. So, you know, from a canoe camping perspective, there are day, weekend, and longer trips. We have a very active forum, and one of the things that brought a little smile to my face and some joy to my heart is in the last 2 weeks, I started to seeing people putting up, identifying, you know, whitewater trips and flatwater trips that have started to go out as a sign that spring has arrived in Ottawa. So we offer programming across a series of different areas: flatwater, whitewater, family. We also do offer a sea kayaking program. In addition to support all of these programs, we do offer training, Paddle Canada certified. As I mentioned before, Peter is one of our whitewater instructors. We have some of our flatwater instructors like Lynette, who's also, and Mark, who are on the call tonight. In addition to support that training, the club has provides the opportunity for canoe and kayak rental. Our boathouse is filled with a range of equipment to support all of these activities, which you can rent to support participation, be it if you're doing training or participating in a day, weekend, or longer camping trip. In addition, supplementing that core sort of feature of the club, that core infrastructure we provide, we do have a range of other equipment. So we do have life jackets, you know, canoe paddles, helmets, you know, barrels for camping, even some old school stoves that will probably outlive me because they are the old school Coleman. Next slide, please. Finally, before I stop talking and I turn this over to Peter, I just want to let you know is and again, I think many of you have seen this before, this sort of virtual form for engaging in our community is a reflection of our attempt to adapt to a COVID-based environment. So, you know, using this virtual form of Zoom, it represents a new process for us. Historically, we've done these in person through the winter. But what we're looking for your opinions, feedback, like as we've undertaken this journey together over the last couple of months, your feedback, for example, the reference to or the use of music to begin is just one of those examples. Have been rolled in terms of both our immediate delivery, but also as we vision looking forward. Our expectation is that when we start planning for our winter seminar series next year, we likely will seek public health situation allowing some sort of mix of in-person as well as virtual. So if you should have any input or you have any comments, please feel free to write us at outreach@raccc.ca. And I think that's my last slide, is it not, Mark? Yes, I'm also getting that, Scott. I think that's the intermediate black rectangles is a pipe issue. And so on that note, I am going to turn this over to Peter, and it would appear that we may have pipe issues today, but I actually was experiencing that all day at work. So I'm thinking there's something wrong with, or some challenges for the broader network as opposed to the particular application. But on that note, I turn it over to you to Peter, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Can you go to my first slide, Mark?
Am I there?
No, you're on the title slide. Next slide. Good, thank you. Okay, so as Steve has already said, I'm the whitewater coordinator. I'm a whitewater and canoe tripping instructor. I've been around with the club for a donkey's age. I started whitewater canoeing in the early 90s after being taken out on a couple of trips by one of my work buddies and deciding that this was really something that was a lot of fun, but you need some instruction before you start. So that's how I got into all of this. I'm generally on the water. I'm on the water now, been on the water for a couple of weeks, and we'll keep going until it freezes up. And as Steve was reading from my 2-sentence CV, I do a fair bit of tripping and solo play boating, a little bit of creeking. This picture is from the Kazan River. It's one of the I'm having a senior moment. Inukshuks, there's about 5 of them on that particular island, and that is not the largest one. So that was a very, very interesting trip. However, I won't be talking about it anymore tonight. Next slide, please. What I will be talking about is the whitewater paddling possibilities for the club in the coming year. I've divided it up into talking about spring rivers, the summer rivers, and the training sites that we use. And in selecting these rivers and sites, I've assumed that our present COVID restrictions are going to be in place, which essentially is limiting our group size to 10 people. And shuttles are now either being done by bike or a limited number of people are doing car shuttles, where under the Ottawa Public Health Guidelines, they don't recommend, but they will not prohibit car shuttles if you have one person per row, windows open, and everybody wearing masks. So we're permitting car shuttles on that basis as well. So now, essentially, when we turn up to a river, instead of assembling at some rendezvous point and going together and consolidating our transport, we're all arriving individually, and the people that arrive, they're going to bike shuttle or arrive early to do their bike shuttle first. So that's been a bit of a pain, but not nearly as much as we thought at the start of last year. And last year we did manage to do 30 or so local day trips. So we're looking forward to sort of expanding our repertoire this year. Next slide, please. Okay, spring rivers. This is started. The photo at the top are two guys walking on the towards the put-in on the Salmon River. The Salmon is one of the Highway 7 rivers, and we used to have an access point at a cottage that was right where the river started. Well, the cottagers got tired of kayakers and canoeists, and so that all went away. And so now we have to start at the highway, which means we have about 1.5 kilometers of lake to cross. The good news is sometimes the lake is completely frozen and you can walk it. The bad news is, like when it was last week, you couldn't paddle it and you couldn't walk it, and so we went home. So that's the challenge of the Salmon River, is hitting it right. And you can see below there's a boat coming down the main canyon on the Salmon. The other rivers that we're doing this year for sure, we've been on the Mississippi 2 or 3 times already. We're doing the Clyde this coming weekend. There are some people that are interested in doing the Jock, and we will be back doing the Salmon. So next slide, please. The Mississippi. I'm going to talk about each river, and if there are any questions, if you just put up your hand on the chat line, we'll stop and discuss that particular river so we don't have to backtrack through the whole thing. The Mississippi is not very far away. It's about 1.5 hours out of Ottawa, and it's a very mellow Class 2 half-day trip. It's really only got 2 significant sets, one of which happens right at the start, and the other which is about 3/4 of the way down. Usually we get out there in April, but this year spring came a little early, so we're out there in March. This is a trip that anybody can do. I say there's one Class 3 minus, that's at a very high water level, and if you found it intimidating, it's an easy walk. It's only about a 50-meter walk if you didn't like it. Wetsuits are okay. It's a short trip. We're in an urban area right by a semi-urban area right by a road. So there is not a big deal if you do go in. And the shuttle is 4 kilometers. It's mainly unpaved, small hills. The put-in and the takeout are at opposite ends of Iron Mine Road, just outside of Lanark. There is a club set of maps that if you go into trips on our website, trips, and then I think it says route descriptions, Whitewater, and then there's a list, and you scroll down to Whitewater day trips. There's a map of about 50 or 60 rivers in the area that shows the put-in and the takeout on that map on the website. So that's a good place to go for information. I think that, yeah, okay. So I've answered that question. If there are no more questions, I'm going to move on to the next one, the Clyde. Clyde is a very relaxed half day. We haven't been there, or I haven't been there for, I think, 20 years. I was surprised that the Tim Hortons on the outside of Elmont, which used to be in the middle of a field, is now in the center of a traffic, or has a traffic circle and is in the center of a shopping center. So we don't know exactly what we're going to find on the river. It's really Class 2 boogie water. It's got maybe a 2+ drop. I had a discussion with somebody today that maybe it wasn't 2+, but people have dumped there fairly frequently. So there's one tricky spot on the whole river. Wetsuits are okay there. It's also a short trip. It's got a short shuttle. It can be biked. And so we're going to go back and revisit the Clyde and find out what it's all about now. The picture shows pretty much what most of the Clyde looks like. So it's mostly like that. Nothing scary, but moving water and a couple of drops, one of which you might even want to look at before you do. Next slide.
There's a question from somebody who wants to know what boogie water is.
Boogie water, it's just quick moving water with maybe small waves. But nothing, you don't have to paddle hard in it, but it's enjoyable. So it's just nice water that's not going to be scary in any way. It's not like big crashing waves that you're going to have to worry about keeping the water out of your boat. It's just going to move you along. So there's a lot of that, we hope, on the Clyde. We hope it's come up enough that it'll be moving pretty swift. Okay, next slide. The Jock. I don't have a picture. I've only been on the Jock once. All the time I've been in the club, it's sort of a pain in the ass for me to get to from the East End. And it's an in-town urban run. It's really class 2 minus. There's one nasty weir that you have to carry over, but I think there's even a sign on the shore that says where it is. It's another one where wetsuits are okay. The shuttle is short, but it's urban streets and a parkway. So there's probably more traffic considerations for a bike shuttle than for any of the other ones. And this has usually been done in the late afternoon or evening by the club, and it's whenever people think the river is cresting, which is probably going to be in the next week or so. Looking at water levels, they've come up dramatically on the small river in the last week, and I think in about a week they're going to start tailing off again. So people that are interested in the Jock will have to take action fairly shortly. Next, please. The salmon. The salmon is maybe my favorite Highway 7 run. It's the easiest Highway 7 river. It's class 2-3. It's got a quite an exciting canyon and something we call the waterfall, which is maybe about a 2-meter drop that is canoeable, but you don't want to end up on the wrong side of the river when you're doing it. This is a river where dry suits are mandatory. Once you get on the river, there's no real easy walk out until you get to what we use for the takeout, because the river curves away from the road, and you're not exactly in the middle of nowhere, but you're a long way away from help. So dry suits are mandatory, and it's running now if you can get across the ice, and it'll keep going into probably the middle. Well, maybe late April. I don't know if it'll last till early May, depending on how much rain we get. So what you can see in these pictures, the top picture is the first significant rapid, which we sometimes call double drop. And you can see Nancy Godso doing an excellent eddy out into that top eddy, which in the picture looks huge, but actually the calm water in that eddy is all against the wall. And so if you don't make it all the way in, you're going to get flushed out backwards over the big drop, which is just off the screen. Don't go there yet. The bottom picture here, the second picture, is the canyon. And you can see, if you look closely, there's an overturned boat about halfway down. That's because we're going to run a film. You'll be able to see it. There is a very nasty diagonal wave about halfway down in that canyon. And if you don't either jump it or hit it just right, you're going to end up like that. And it sounds very simple when you're looking at the river from the shore. You can see just how you're going to jump this diagonal wave, and probably there's about a 50% failure rate on jumping the wave. And maybe those that don't jump, maybe about a 40 or 50% of those will end up being flipped. And the bottom picture is somebody doing the little waterfall. So it's not a big waterfall, but you don't want to be on the river right side of it. So can we have the next slide, please, which is a little video. This is very old video.
Go, go! Nice! Go, go!
Good, good. Stay in the boat.
Uh-oh.
Stay in the boat. Go forward. Go forward.
So you can see what happened when the boat hit the diagonal wave. It jumped over about a half a meter to a meter and filled. That wave is impressively high when you run into it. And Anne Ransonet here did a beautiful save. She has a novice paddler in the bow, so they stayed upright. And then she managed to turn into the eddy, even though her boat was essentially filled with water. So this is a great move. The nice thing about that blowing that move on the top is you probably are going to end up in this eddy, either right side up or upside down, one way or another. So that's some of the excitement on the salmon, and I hope to be there not this weekend, but the following weekend, because I think by then all the ice will be gone, but the water level should still be pretty good. It's now seems to be close to a seasonal peak. It's about 20 CMS now, so it's starting to get close to a seasonal peak, but it's good down to 8. So hopefully things won't dry out too quick. Next slide, please. Oh, we're going to see it again. Oh, okay. Summer. We've moved from spring to summer. We've got a lot of rivers we can do in the summer. Although some of the ones that require a weekend trip are not going to be on this list because we aren't doing any expedition club tripping at the moment. If the COVID situation changes dramatically in our favor over the next 8 weeks, maybe there'll be some weekend trips, but for now we aren't planning any. So we'll definitely do the lower Matawaska, both at Commerce and Snake Rapids. We do the middle Matawaska for sure. We'll do the Ottawa, we'll do the Petite Nation and the Rouge in 2 sections. And probably some people will be doing the Petawawa town section. So can we have the first slide? Okay, Palmer's, everybody knows Palmer's. It's our usual training site. Palmer's has got 2 major portions to it. The Jessup Chute portion, we'll see a little bit of a video of, in which the lower picture here is the upper set on Jessup Chute, and which is a class 3, and the place where we do nearly all our training is on the lower set, which is a long class 2. So it provides a lot of practice and maneuvering. It's a great practice place. And because the river is sort of on the lower set, goes around in a C, you can paddle for a kilometer and then walk back across the open part of the sea on your portage for about 100 meters and be back at the start again. So you can do multiple times with no shuttle. And because of that, because you're going to either be camping or parking on site, it's a wetsuit kind of thermal protection. So you don't have to wear a dry suit to go to Palmer's. Although if I was going there this weekend, I'm pretty sure that I'd be wearing my dry suit. It's still pretty chilly if you fall in. So can I have the next slide, please? Can we, there we go. This was a beginner's course, and you can see, and the last day of the beginner's course, usually the grand finale is those students that want to run Jessup Chute, run it. And as you can see, things started off well, but air bracing is not really the most effective move to stay upright when you hit those bottom waves. Yeah, this is a lot of fun for most people. Although I have to say that probably only about half the people off a beginner's course will usually try it. One of the things that's characteristic is videos tend to flatten out the water. The drops don't look nearly as big as they'll look when you're in the boat. And so people coming off a 2-day beginner's course may feel that Jessup Chute is a little bit beyond them, but it is fun to do. Even if you dump, you're probably not going to do anything other than swim out the bottom like that pair did. It would have been classier if they'd actually remembered what they were taught and braced, but you can't have everything. Next, please. Okay. We do a lot of trips on the lower Matawaska, so-called Snake Rapids section. The downside is that there's several kilometers of flat water to start. This is more of a pain in a solo boat than it is in a tandem boat, but you got to work a bit before you get to the first set. It's all class 2, 3, and it's all drop and pool. So I'll accept the very last set, canoe eater or raquette, which is requires a little bit of maneuvering. Drop and pool. Drop and pool is just what you saw. Jessup Chute was a drop and pool rapid, where there's one big drop, and if you and then the water ends up at just open water, a pool. There are no rocks, so if you swim, you're just going to swim. It's not like you're going to go through a rock garden or through a bunch of holes and standing waves that will make your life very difficult. It's like once you fall in, now you're in, and you just have to swim out. So drop and pool is usually the easiest kind of rapid, or at least the most forgiving kind of rapid, because even if you blow it, nothing really bad's going to happen. So Lower Mad is a favorite river because of that. Some of the drops are fairly challenging. Some of the drops can be done in a very easy way, and some of them can be done in very challenging ways. I did an advanced course on the Lower Mad, and we could not do all the moves the instructor was asking us to make. So, but if all you want to do is get down to to the bottom of the set usually is pretty easy. And basically, at this time of year, early season, it's a dry suit river, but once it starts to warm up a bit, people will be wetsuits or even bathing suits, and it can be run usually the whole year. The shuttle is on a forestry access road, which isn't paved. The shuttle is probably more challenging to cars than to a bike. There are no ends of oil pans, McPherson struts, mufflers, and other bits and pieces that have come to grief on the shuttle on the lower Mad. So it's one of those things. On the other hand, I mean, I've seen people take tandem boats in and out in a Honda Civic without any problem. So it's not like you actually need a 4x4, a huge truck, but there are plenty of spots you have to be careful about. On a bike, it's really sort of a pretty pleasant trip. It's not, actually the downhills are trickier than the climbs. So that's the lower Mad. We'll be spending a lot of time there this year. Next, please. The Middle Mad. The Middle Mad is where MKC lives. And it's got a stretch of about almost a kilometer of class 2-3, and you can run it any way you want. There is a class 2 route down Chalet Rapids on River Right, and if you go on River Left, it can get as challenging as you want. In this photo, the rock in the foreground here is Spectator Rock, and if you get a boat into that big eddy, there is a nice little wave coming off the rock at the top of the eddy, and if you put your boat right on it, you can go right across the river onto the easy right-hand side and not come to any grief. The problem is where all that white is in the middle, that's about a 1 meter drop into a big hole. So you're going to do this semi-jet ferry across above the hole. So that's a really good move. People will stand on Spectator's Rock and watch you try to do it. The great thing about this is this run, which has got an upper part on staircase, which is a genuine class 3 and a very big one. And down below this is gravel pit, and the bottom set is you can walk back and do this run. Well, you can do the center part walking. It's like maybe 100 meters, carry your boat up, do it again. When you get to the bottom, you can walk back up to where your car is parked and go get your boat. So we were doing that a lot of times last summer, and it's like a no shuttle day. It's really quite nice. We try to stay out of the way of MKC's classes. Last year, that wasn't a problem. They weren't all that busy. But if they are full up, all these eddies will fill up with plastic pretty quick. Next one, please. Okay. The Ottawa Middle. When I joined the club in 1990, Ottawa Middle was considered to be scary. And it definitely was thought of for high-level intermediates or advanced paddlers only. We've changed our thinking. The water is big. The drops on the Ottawa Middle are like a step bigger than the lower Mad, but they aren't any more difficult, and most of them end in pools. The ones that don't end in pools, we know where the sneak routes are, and anybody that doesn't look a good bet to make it will be directed down a sneak route. And it's pretty good, much good at all water levels. There's a nominal gauge. There's no, well, there is a Government of Ontario gauge, but most paddlers use MK Owl Rafting's nominal gauge, which is just this big aluminum bar bolted to a rock below McCoy's Rapid. And it goes from like -10 to maybe 25, maybe above 25. I've paddled at everything from maybe -2 all the way up to just above 20. And it's a different river at every water level. So it's got lots to do. It really is beginner friendly, especially when it gets down to +3 or below. The main issues with the Ottawa River are the put-in is managed by Owl Rafting, and they allow free access and parking, which is really nice. The takeout is run by River Run, and they charge people, like they charge I think it's now about $120 for a season pass to use their facilities, or $10 or $12 a visit. Might be even slightly more than that this year per person. It's not per car, it's per person. So there's a lot of angst in the paddling community about the takeout fees at River Run, but like that's what it is. And the shuttle is not too bad. It's the first part is on a private road, and it's not paved, and it's one big hill up all the way. But after you do that, you're on a paved road. There are maybe one more hill left, but it's not too bad. It's generally considered to be easy to bike, and it's got a lot of variety in terms of what you can do. What the picture at the top is Butterfly. I would say that's probably at 8 on the nominal gauge, 8 to 10. And the whole idea, you can see a boat in the little eddy there. The whole idea is to get over there without ending up in the big hole on River Left. I'm not sure what the oh, do they charge for parking a bike? Yeah, they do. They charge per person access. So you're going to pay. Joe Kowalski is going to get his $10 out of you one way or another. This bottom one, I'm not actually sure where that is on the Ottawa. It looks like maybe the bottom of Little Trickle, maybe, but I'm not sure. Next slide, please. The Ottawa Main. There will be some club paddlers that will do the Ottawa Main for sure. It's class 3, class 4, and unlike the Middle, there are consequences. What you're looking at here is the top of Norman's, the bottom, you can see Coliseum. Barely, you can see the pavilion at Coliseum. If you dump on this rapid on River right at the bottom where it's all white, it's all boily, nasty, recirculating, you can get sucked down and come back up again a few seconds later. If you get flushed all the way down into Coliseum, heaven help you. You do not want to swim there. So I've done the Main maybe 3-4 times. I am not lusting to go back. I think I've aged out on the Main, but there will definitely be strong paddlers that will do the Main, and it's the same shuttle as the Middle. So it's popular amongst those that find the Middle Channel too tame for their tastes. Next slide. Mark, next, please. Rouge Canyon. No, back to Rouge Canyon. This is one where we didn't do it at all last year, but I think we'll probably end up doing it this year. The Rouge Canyon is a class 2-3. It's definitely requires a higher skill level than either the Lower Mad or the Ottawa Middle, because it's no longer completely drop and pool. Above where this picture is taken at the bottom of the canyon. The first drop into the canyon that requires you to do a drop, a sheer drop, go around a corner at 90 degrees, and go over a shelf that's about a meter and a half higher than the pool below it. And the pool is just a recirculating eddy. And you really don't want to end up to the left of the eddy and be flushed out, because you'll end up swimming this whole canyon. And the water moves really quickly in this canyon. Then you have to run the next drop into the canyon, which has got some nasty guard rocks. That the one of the few boats that the club has lost in the 30 years I've been a member was lost in the Rouge Canyon on those dragon teeth at the top. And it was a boat that went into these two big boulders that stick up, went in sideways and got pinned, and it couldn't be extracted until the water went down. Rafting company pulled it off for us. So that's one of the few boats we've actually lost, happened in this canyon. Yeah, the entry and exits present a challenge. The exit here, you can see boats at the top of this, or the bottom of this picture, entering the bottom part of the canyon from river left. The challenge is the exit is against the wall on river right. And the big white spot there in the bottom is about 2 meters shelf into a big hole. So you don't want to drive into it at many water levels. Although I've had an absolutely painless escape from it once in a tandem boat, where we realized we weren't going to make it, and we just powered up and came out the other side looking pretty good, but it was pretty lucky. You really want to get over to the river right side and exit. Following this, there is another section of about 3 to 4 kilometers of boulder fields on a fairly steep gradient. So you have to be able to maneuver and control your boat really well. If you dump there, you are going to get banged up a bit. You aren't going to die, but you're probably going to get a few bruises. You could get the gunnel ripped off your boat, stuff like that. So there's a section in there that is quite technical. And then after you finish that section, there is the river turns, and there is another slide through another technical section that's only about 200 or 300 kilometers long. But then the river does yet another 90-degree turn and goes over maybe a 3-meter ledge, which is a slide on one side. On the river right side, it's a slide. On the river left side, where all the water is going to want to push you, it goes into a hole and then a bunch of rocks. So we've seen pins there. We've seen some misery for people that didn't move over soon enough. So it's also got a bikeable shuttle. So this is certainly a river that people will be running. This is what I would say is an intermediate river where you should have some confidence that you can control your boat and you aren't going to flip the first time you hit a rock unexpectedly, because you will. Next, please. Yes, this is the expert part of the Rouge. I said class 3, class 4, because those are the drops that we usually run, but there are class 5 drops, maybe, and at least 4+ in the Seven Sisters. It's drop and pool, but it's got long bouldery inclines that are steeper than the Rouge Canyon section, and where the consequences will be higher. There is a set of rapids. A washing machine is one of them in the middle that we definitely will set up safety, because you could stay in the whole washing machine for a long time if you don't make it across. This part of the river is only run by high-level intermediates and advanced paddlers and the club. This is a sort of trip, very often will be by invitation only. Club members rarely run the waterfall section. You can see the start of the waterfall section here below. This is the first waterfall, which is this double drop. You've got about a 2.5 meter drop to start, and then you've got maybe a 4 meter drop that this kayaker is just about to go over. Club members have rarely done that section, but we have done it. Usually we'll carry around it to the last of the waterfalls and go up below then. And then there's another couple kilometers of class 2 before you have to take out. So this is one of the more challenging rivers that can be bicycle shuttled in the Ottawa area. Next, please. And this is another one of them, the Petawawa town section. It's class 3, class 4, definitely high level or intermediate to an advanced paddler, and participants are going to definitely be vetted by trip leaders. We haven't done it too often as a club trip. We've had club training there in the past, and it's like a short walk back to the top. So it's not even a bike shuttle. It's like almost a walk back. So it has got some sets where there will be real serious consequences if you screw up. This is the top of railway. So this is I think a fairly yeah, no, it's not. This is Lovers. Anyway, all the action is off the photo. Unfortunately, the big drop is off the photo. This used to be run as Hell or High Water Festival about this time of year by those crazy enough to get in a raft or a decked boat and go down this section of river. It's a lot of fun, but once again, it's for people that have mastered their basic skills and are going to be confident in doing unexpected maneuvers. Next, please. We just did that. Go on again. Next. Okay, those are the summer rivers. Oh, yeah, go back. Well, stay here. Training sites. Yeah, we have 3 major training sites: Pump House, Bates Island, and Valleyfield. And maybe Palmer's, but we already talked about that. Next, please. Pump House. This is right in town. It is operated by the Ottawa River Runners, whose clubhouse you can see in that picture. Individuals can either join the Ottawa River Runners and pay an annual membership fee to use this site, or you can pay $5. There's an honesty box to pay $5 if you just turn up and want to run it once. It is a deceptively challenging little run. Like many other, it's set up to provide practice for C1s, which are deck boats, which can turn a lot quicker than an OC1 or an open boat. This is not a course. At high water, we have played around with tandem boats on this course, but then most of the features are flushed out and you can actually maneuver a tandem boat. When the water starts to go down and the course gets to be interesting for solo boats, it's really too tight for a tandem boat. You can run straight down the center, but then sort of like, why bother? The eddies are too small. Most of them, you can catch 1 or 2 on the way down, but it's really not a good site for practicing tandem boats. Solo boats, it's deceptively difficult. It's been engineered so there are eddies that are easy to get into, but where you're looking at maybe a half a meter to a meter standing wave to jump up on to get out of, all sorts of little tricks like that. And if you blow it off picture at the bottom of this run, you will go through the tunnel, which is the tunnel under the highway between the site and the bottom, which is the Flatwater gates at below the Library and Archives Canada. So you'll have about a 200-meter swim through what looks like a storm drain. It's dark and it's not too pleasant. So most people will try really hard to swim out and wait for the light to change, go across the road and get their boat at the bottom. There are Flatwater gates that are below this site off the picture. And that's also a great place. It's moving water, but not killer moving water. There are gates set up. It's a great place to practice your skills in both tandem and solo boats, to learn how to do ferries and turns, and to be able to make your boat go exactly where you want it to. Even if you're not interested in slalom, the Flatwater gates are a good place to practice. Hopefully we'll be doing some practice there, and undoubtedly club members will be using the pump house for solo practice a lot this season. Next, please. Bates Island. This is Bates Island has got these curlers, one of which is right at the top, which people love to surf on, which is a little hard to get to, but once you're there, you can surf forever. The lower waves are also interesting for practicing ferries and a little bit of surfing. You can go actually ferry right out to the middle of the river. And the moving water around the island is also a great practice place, and appropriate water levels will take beginners and novices there just so they can get some boat time without having to leave town. So this is a frequent evening practice location for the club. Excuse me. Next, please. Okay, Valleyfield is on the eastern side of Montreal, if you know where Valleyfield is. This course, slalom course, is behind a shopping center, so it is very urban. You're looking up from about halfway down the course. Unfortunately, the photo doesn't really show all the obstacles very well. The very top part of this course is class 3 and is really fast. So if you want to try maneuvering in true class 3, that at the top of the course, you can have that experience. The middle is more class 2, but the water is really, really fast. It is about 3 or 4 times the length of the pump house. So it's a much longer run. It's got some good surf waves at the bottom. Because you're basically getting in and getting out in a parking lot, there's no shuttle. So once you're there, and you can practice and play all day long if you want. There's no fee for using Valleyfield. So it is a drive to Montreal though. So it's quite an interesting spot. And we've used it quite a bit. Okay, next slide. Oh, I see a question. No, there's no question. Oh, what happened? We lost the presentation, Mark.
Working on it.
All right. Well, I think we're done, almost to the end anyway. We've done all the practice sites.
Yeah, that was the last slide.
Okay, well then, I guess we're open for any additional questions. And just so people who might not be club members know, or maybe even club members, we're having 2 solo and 2 tandem beginner training courses in June, and 2 intermediate courses. One that's a Paddle Canada intermediate skills course. The other is Andy Convery, 1 day a solo, 1 day tandem. You can do either or both. The registration for our whitewater training opens tomorrow. So if you're interested, I would invite you to apply soon, because I think there's some of especially the tandem beginners is going to fill up pretty quick. So that's my pitch. Thank you all.
On training, what are the prerequisites for somebody who wants to take beginner training?
Well, we don't examine people before they turn up, but people, we ask that people be able to paddle bow and stern in flat water. Now, some people are quite accomplished and have got a good J stroke or a good stern correction stroke, and understand cross bow moves in the bow, and that's perfect. That's the perfect learning platform. However, we have people that claim to have reasonable flat water skills that really fall below our standard, and we still manage to get nearly everybody passed. So you will definitely have a much easier time if you can control your boat in flat water. If you're starting from below that mark, you are going to experience difficulties, but I think you'll still learn a lot.
Does anybody else have any questions, any comments? Going once? Going twice?
All right, so Steve here, more of
Thank
a
you.
comment. So first of all, I have to agree with you, Mark. I swam Coliseum once. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Yeah, Coliseum is something where people have ended up in the hospital. And I came close to swimming it on a course. Andrew Westwood barely rescued me in time. Then I heard all the stories about, oh, you're lucky you didn't swim over that next ledge because so-and-so and so-and-so went to the hospital after they did it. Yeah, okay. That's a sobering thought. So yeah, there are consequences on the main channel. There's
Oh,
no
yes.
doubt about it.
Very much so. So do we have any questions? Oh, actually here, a question from Mary. When you did the blood vein, where did you put in Artery Lake?
Yeah, we put in at Artery Lake. Although we had some difficulty there. There was a forest fire that kept us out for one day, and then there was a tornado the next day, where we got half our party flown in, and then the air service shut down because of the weather conditions, and so they got trapped out at Artery Lake overnight with hurricane warnings and sort of the residue of a forest fire. So yeah, that was a little exciting start to that trip. You can start higher up, but then it's like a flat water trip. So I'm not interested so much anymore in flat water trips. So we started at Artery Lake. I would also say if you're going to do the blood vein, we did it by driving to Red Lake with our own boats and then flying into Artery Lake. And the plan was to fly out from Blood Vein Community. And what happened was the drive was not terrible, but it wasn't cheap or easy either. And then when we tried to fly out, we couldn't fly out because of weather conditions again. The weather was fine at Blood Vein, but it was bad at Artery Lake. And so after 3 days, the outfitter finally came with a van and got us out. But the better way to do it would be to go with an outfitter either in Bissett or Winnipeg, fly into Winnipeg, rent your boats, and go in and out from road leave by road to Winnipeg, and you fly into Artery Lake from Bissett. Or if you want to go up higher, they'll take you up higher. But I would use Bissett as my airhead rather than Artery Lake if I was doing it again. I've done it that way before, and it's really smooth. I don't know why I wanted. I guess that we figured, oh, we'll take our own boats. Yeah, well, penny wise, pound foolish, I think is how it ended up.
So Peter, and I assume it's in light of the season. So there's been a question about, where to get a reasonably priced dry suit. What is the expected cost? A few people have also pitched in and suggested, Kijiji is a good option. But if you could talk just a little bit about dry suits and what people who are looking for them should look for, and how to dress thermally for water such as.
Oh, sure. Dry suits are expensive. That's all there is to it. If you the more expensive they are, tends to be the more durable fabric and more breathable the fabric, and the zippers are better. The dry suit with a metal zipper will last longer, potentially anyway, than one with a plastic zipper. The other big choice with dry suits is whether you want to go with a neoprene gaskets or a latex gaskets. Some people find latex gaskets choky, and they are somewhat fragile, and you will have to replace them eventually, but this is anybody can do this. but they keep the water out. So that's the good and bad with latex gaskets. Neoprene gaskets seem oh so comfortable when you put them on, but they always leak. So you won't really have a dry suit. You're going to have a damp suit. If I was planning on never falling in and swimming, I would definitely go with a neoprene gasket suit. But otherwise, the latex gaskets are preferred. They'll keep you a lot drier. In terms of brands, I have only had Kokatat dry suits, which are expensive. I've heard bad things about some other brands that I won't mention publicly, but if you ask me by the side of the river, I'll tell you. But generally, you get what you pay for. If somebody's selling a dry suit for $600 to $800, you aren't going to get the durability that you're going to get from one that costs $1,200. If you buy a used dry suit, there's really no way to know what you're getting until you take it out on the river and try it. The problem with dry suits is that they can get little pinholes in them just by hitting rocks, hitting thorn bushes by the side of the river when you're doing a portage. The fabric can start to fail. If you're the original owner of a Kokatat dry suit, you can spend $40 and send it to the factory, and they'll either fix it or send you a new dry suit, which they did for my last dry suit. If you've got one of the competitors, I don't know what you get. I don't think you'll get that kind of level of service. But if you buy a used one, gee, it could leak, it could be fine. You won't know until the first time you fall in. So, and underneath a dry suit, it's like you're going to wear whatever you think is required to keep you warm according to the water temperature. So, last weekend I was wearing a light polypropylene base layer and heavy winter layer fleece over top and bottom. As the water starts to warm up, I'll finally just go to long underwear under there. By the end of May, I'll be out of it completely. So you have to dress for the water conditions, not the air conditions. And you can dress as heavy as you want. Depends. Like some people will feel cold a lot more than others. So that's a very personal thing. But I would say you always need a thin base layer and then something like over top of that, whether it's a very light layer or a heavy layer, it depends.
So Peter, another question. It's from Gail.
Yeah.
Did you say, so you mentioned that there was going to be an intermediate whitewater course this summer. It's not currently on the calendar. When do you expect to have it on the calendar? It
should be on the calendar now. It's okay. If it's not on the calendar, I'll put it on. It's certainly on the Play RA. Okay. It's intermediate solo only. And it's going to be I think the 19th and 20th of June.
Okay, so there's no intermediate tandem so far planned for this year?
No, we did not have an instructor available for intermediate tandem so far anyway. Yeah, I would have liked to had an intermediate tandem course, but as this session started, we're all volunteers, and this year there are fewer instructors available than usual because some of us are sitting on the bench because of COVID. I'm not planning on teaching this year, so that's it. We made the decision to direct our training resources into beginner training. So we're doing 2 beginner courses of each and only 1 solo tandem course. So Andy Convery's course, though, his 1-dayer, if you want to do a tandem course and up your skills from, I would strongly recommend that course. Andy will not only teach you how to exit eddies properly, but how to use transport waves, how to use holes. It'll open your eyes to a lot of techniques that you may be sort of aware of from just paddling, but you'll sharpen them up real quick. That's a very worthwhile day. So that's like 1 day of tandem intermediate is what we got.
When is that? When are we tentatively scheduling that for?
That is also 19th, 20th of June.
Okay.
The intermediate courses are all in the same weekend.
Okay.
So I'm looking at the calendar. The intermediate solo, as Peter says, is on the calendar right now for the 18th to the 20th, with the Andy Calvary tandem on the 19th and his solo on the 20th.
And you can sign up tomorrow.
Well done, Peter. We got to drive people. Does anybody else have any questions? We've actually had a really, I don't know, Peter, if you've seen it, a really active chat today, again, talking about dry suits and
Dry
quads.
suits, yeah, I'm looking at it.
And some names or some models or makers that are being recommended by some. So I think we've covered most of the questions that have been raised in the chat. If we have, what's that, Scott, Mark?
Sorry, so Leslie's looking for a copy of the presentation. We are planning on getting a YouTube channel set up. And so all of the presentations that have been recorded, which is not all of the presentations, but all of the ones that we have permission to record, will eventually be up on our YouTube channel. And once the YouTube channel is up and running, there will be an article on our website telling you where to find it. What about tandem paddlers without a partner?
Excuse me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear. Say again.
From Tom, what about tandem paddlers without a partner?
Oh, well, we try to accommodate them as best we can. Certainly for a training course, any tandem training course, you don't have to have a partner, you just sign up. And if necessary, one of the instructors will sit in the boat, or we'll make arrangements. On day trips, it had been my practice up until last year that on any of my trips, if there was a unaccompanied tandem paddler, I usually would otherwise paddle solo, I would team up with them. But this year, I'm sorry, I'm not going to get in the tandem boat with anybody. It's just the way it is. I'm going to paddle solo. I'm going to bicycle shuttle. That's it. So as a trip leader, I will try to pair up paddlers without partners. And we are often successful. Like the Mississippi trip we did 2 weeks ago, we had 2 formerly independent tandem paddlers that we were able to pair up, and they did the river tandem. So it shouldn't stop you from signing up for a course and putting your hand up and saying, hey, I need a partner, because hopefully there'll be somebody else that will be looking as well. But unlike pre-tandem days, trip leaders and that are not necessarily going to get in a boat with anybody. So I'm sorry, but it's a health emergency and it's just the way it is.